Hey guys, and happy Monday. The first thing that I want to say is as you watch this video, if I go too fast, you've got control. Pause it, take your notes, visit the slides, whatever. But just make sure that you get notes for all of the content. I am aware that a couple of my classes or some of my classes did cover this slide, but one or two of them didn't. So just putting it in here. If you already listened to this, then fast forward till you see the next slide. Blah blah. Okay. So with that, we talked about thinking previously and then language. We're going to put them together here. Benjamin Whorf suggested this thing called linguistic determinism. And in his study, what he did was he studied Chinese-born bilingual students. And he asked them to describe themselves in English and to describe themselves in Chinese. And what he found was when the students described themselves in English, it was mostly positive self-statements, positive self-moods, more individualistic. And then when he had them describe themselves in Chinese, they got a more roughly equal positive and negative self-statements, which led him to believe that the language that you are thinking and writing and communicating in can actually alter the way that you think. Which is a really interesting concept to think about. Now, right, when we look at this, it's not really just that language determines the way we think. It's more of a cyclical relationship, and the idea that the language that we use can change the way that we think, and then the way that we think can change the language or communication style that we use. So really interesting. And then one last little bit is a lot of times we don't think in words, we think in images. Think about that for a minute. All right, so with that, real quickly, you will notice embedded in Schoology is an extra credit assignment. It must be completed by Monday, October the 9th at 11:59 p.m., or your opportunity to do the extra credit completely closes out. There's an article that talks about how thinking in foreign languages can improve decision making, and it combines all three. If you read that article when you are finished reading it, complete the discussion post for a possibility of 5 extra credit product points. So if you're looking for a little boost in your grade, this is a pretty interesting and easy way to do it. Okay, so with that, new topic that we're covering today is intelligence. We're going to look at what is intelligence and what are some theories or perspectives on intelligence. And then you will end your virtual early release day by taking an intelligence test of your choosing. Okay, so with that, I want you to take a minute and I want you to think about what is intelligence, right, and what intelligence is not. Okay, so with that one, I want you to recognize is that intelligence is not how much you know. Okay, it is not how much you know. It's more about processing, right? So it is your ability to learn from experience, to solve problems, and use your knowledge to adapt to new situations. So it's more about how you take what you've got and apply it to something new and something different, and not how much information you actually have, right? You can take a 10-year-old and give them an intelligence test, and they can demonstrate that they are highly intelligent. But what a 10-year-old knows is going to be different than what a 20-year-old knows, which is also why there are different intelligence tests for children and for grown-ups, okay? When you look at intelligence across different cultures or perspectives, what that means is really, really different. So kind of what we need to recognize is intelligence, if we operationally define it, is whatever the test that a person is taking for intelligence is actually measuring to get that intelligence score. We'll spend more time talking about intelligence testing when you guys return on Tuesday. Okay, I do want to talk about 2 different types of intelligence, and I've kind of referenced these before. I never know what to do with my head because I don't want it to be in the way. Okay, so with that, crystallized intelligence is your ability to use knowledge and experience that you already have. The more you use your crystallized intelligence, typically the stronger it gets, which is why as you get older, your crystallized intelligence typically gets stronger, right? Because those neurons have had more time to practice. On the flip side, fluid intelligence is your ability to solve new problems and use new logic in new situations and identifying new patterns. And kind of like we talked about with memory, that capacity slows. You still have it, but the processing speed decreases. And so with that, fluid intelligence typically peaks in adolescence. Physiologically, adolescence is from the time of puberty up until that prefrontal lobe is fully developed, so in your mid-20s. Okay, and then after that, it kind of plateaus for a little bit, and then it slowly decreases. All right, so intelligence is a wide mix of things, but just remember, it is about processing and not about the specific things that you know. Okay? All right, so let's get into some of these theories of intelligence. This first one is Spearman. Spearman suggested that there was one generalized intelligence, that there was one underlying factor that could be used then to determine a person's ability to process, right? He was a little bit criticized, and people argued that the idea that you would have one G score or one generalized intelligence score didn't really provide a very good picture of people's intelligence. And that really he should have considered different factors in this idea of a factor analysis with different like clusters of intelligence or components of intelligence. And Spearman kind of suggested back that that's really unnecessary, because if you divide intelligence into clusters, right, and then you correlate the score on each one of those clusters with the overall generalized intelligence score, that they would be correlated so that it didn't really matter. Okay. And so he really thought that we didn't need clusters of intelligence. One generalized score was enough to get it done. Okay. Now we're going to flip to the completely opposite side of that. Gardner suggested this idea of multiple intelligences, which has totally been debunked. Since then, we do think that people have different learning styles, but not necessarily different intelligences. Okay, right? He said there is no generalized intelligence. We have multiple intelligences, and he suggested the 4 that you're looking at over here on the right. You can pause and take some time to write that down if you want to, or to think about them a little bit more. They're also outlined in your text. Okay. Right. So again, if we look at that, he's got bodily kinesthetic or body smart, interpersonal people smart, verbal linguistic word smart, logical mathematical logic smart, naturalistic or nature smart, intrapersonal or self smart, and visual spatial or picture smart, and then finally musical smart. Again, we do know people who are stronger at one ability than another, but the modern consensus is that these aren't really different intelligences. They're just learning styles or learning preferences, right? And that we can't really divide them the way that we once thought that we could. I will tell you, though, that despite that, in a lot of educational information, it does push that these 8 intelligences still really do exist. Okay. All right. Our final little intelligence theory is kind of in the middle. So Sternberg said there's one big one. Gardner said there's 8 smaller ones. Sternberg said, I think maybe we can categorize this into 3 different groups, right? He said that we have analytical intelligence, we have creative intelligence, and we have practical intelligence. Okay, so analytical is typically what you think of when you think about intelligence. It is what is tested by your typical intelligence tests, right? That give you that score that is normed between 85 and 115 if you're in the normal population, with a standard deviation of 15. Okay, right? It is your ability to solve well-defined problems with single right answers, right? It is very much testing convergent thinking abilities. Okay, but Sternberg said that just because you don't have that doesn't mean you're not extremely intelligent. He also looked at creativity. When we talked about creativity with thinking and problem solving, I said, hey, Sternberg is the man, right? He really thought creative intelligence was extremely important. And this is that ability to adapt and react to new things, to think outside of the box, the divergent thinking stuff. And then he said we also have practical intelligence. And he kind of linked that to the idea of like street smarts, right? Our ability to perform everyday tasks and procedures that make life easier or more efficient, and to come up with multiple solutions to a variety of real life things. Okay, so again, those are our 3 theories. I have one more thing I'm going to throw at you. And again, I'm talking fast. It's cool if you pause it and do what you need to do, but I'm just trying to get this video done. I'm just being honest. Okay, the last one I have here is emotional intelligence, which is a completely separate thing, right? It is more about your social intelligence, your self-awareness, your ability to perceive, understand, manage, and use your emotions to have more positive, more effective interactions with other people. Research does indicate that typically women have higher emotional intelligence scores than men, but that is a correlation and not causation. So it does not mean that all women have higher emotional intelligence than all men do. Okay? So with that gets us to the final thing. This says AP Classroom. Completely ignore that. I forgot to delete it out. You have no AP Classroom. Okay? However, feel free to work on your learning curve as you wish. Okay, so what I want you to realize is right now I want you to take some intelligence tests. You can take one, you can take multiple. I linked one in there that is more like your typical intelligence test. I linked one in there that is based on Gardner's multiple intelligences. And I linked one that is based on emotional intelligence. I'm going to tell you that one's really long. So you can take however many it is that you want, but I would like for you to at least take one of those intelligence tests, and then you can do the extra credit if you want to, and you can wrap up your day. And I hope you have a great Monday, and I'll see you on Tuesday.